Hello, everyone. Rob Garcia with Heritage PPG, and we are back for another Mass Tangent today. And along with me is Kevin Leeper and Lehn Weaver from Mitchell Products. So glad to have you, Lehn. And I think we got some great questions and some information. We'll be able to learn about wetting agents. We're coming into the hottest time of the year. It's finally hot where I live, and we had a fairly cool spring. So all of a sudden, everybody, when they have a couple of 90-degree days in a row, all of a sudden it's the hot topic. So, Kevin, you want to
leave wetting agents out?
It's time to come out.
So Lehn and I had a discussion. It was supposed to be a podcast about 2.5 or 3 years ago. I don't know that it ever got released, maybe just internally. But at the beginning of that podcast or discussion, Lehn, you were telling me a little bit about the history of Mitchell Products. You guys were an aggregates company. You worked on drying down some sand mixes for golf courses, and then you realized it was super hydrophobic. You needed some wetting agents, so you got in touch with a chemist who formulated some stuff for you, and then that really kicked off your market with wetting agents and grew your company from there. At the time, you also, this was maybe 3 years ago, you also mentioned that there was like 200 wetting agents on the market. And you were interested to see in the next 5 or 10 years what's still around or how many more have we gotten. So I wanted to start the conversation with where are we at in the market with the number of wetting agents, and there's so many different types, obviously, but what are your thoughts currently on the market of wetting agents?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question, Kevin. And I want to thank both you and Rob for inviting me to be here. It's really awesome to be able to be here talking about something that's really close to my heart in terms of wetting agents. I get to really nerd out when I talk to you guys. And so that's really awesome. It brings out I have my classes and why I spent 20 years in school being able to study science and all that kind of stuff. So sure. This is a great time to talk about wetting agents. And we at Mitchell Products, we love when it's hot and dry because that's when users really need to sell wetting agents. And so we're based here in South Jersey, and over the past month, we've had some of the driest times that we've ever had. So my front lawn looks more like straw than grass, and so it's been when we see that out there, it's really great because that guys and homeowners, golf course superintendents, sports field managers, they really need to work on water management. And this is really where the bread and butter of soil wetting agents really come from. And so, like you said, there's over 40 different companies just here in the United States. And when you look internationally, there's even more companies that are out there selling wetting agents. Just here in the States, like you said, over 200 different wetting agents that are out there trying to be sold. And so the marketing materials, the schemes, the gimmicks, the myths that are out there, it's really hard to understand all of those things because wetting agents, all the magic that happens isn't on the surface. You never get to see where the wetting agent is going, what it's actually doing. And so unless you're in the lab like I am all the time and looking at how all these different products compare to each other and formulating new products and mixing and matching all of these things together, really don't have an understanding of what's actually going on under the soil. And so until you really have a better appreciation for what's going on from that standpoint, it's really hard to know how you pick one product versus another. And so it's really interesting from that standpoint that when we add a little bit of education and a little bit of knowledge and information, you can actually go and use those wetting agents more effectively over time. And so the state of the art in terms of where wetting agents are is that we have continued to collect samples from multiple different very, very big companies that make these individual components of surfactants. And there's always new things that are coming out, whether they work and how they work and what are the cost points and the effectiveness, that kind of is always changing, but we're always looking for new, better technologies out there. And in the grand scheme of things, there's not a whole lot that has come out in the past 20 years in terms of new, better, different things that are out there, other than to say that they're how you mix and match these individual components are really, really important in terms of making the most effective wetting agent that you can have. And so there's always new products that are coming out. There's always new marketing materials that say, oh, we have the next best product because of X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what those marketing materials are. The proof of the pudding is what it's doing in the soils and how it's actually working.
So I think this might be a great time to bring up that if you go to our YouTube page, Heritage PPG, we've got a whole host of videos Lehn and Mitchell Products has done for us with our wetting agents, dropping into different soil types and really getting that perspective of what is the water droplet with the wetting agent doing versus if you just had water alone, or maybe some competitive products as well. So go and check those out if you have interest in seeing what does a wetting agent do when it is introduced to sand mix or peat mixes, etc., stuff like that. In our discussion previously, you'd also mentioned, kind of like what you were saying, the key will end up being combo products and offering multifunctionality to address a wide range of issues that somebody might have when they're, trying to maintain water moisture in their soil surface. So I guess that kind of gets into myth number one, which would be wetting agent chemical structures matter.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. So this is a really great question. So there's lots of different perspectives in terms of how you group your wetting agents. And over the past 20 years, there's been different categories. Initially, there was marketing materials saying that there's 8 different categories of wetting agents. Now we're up to 25 different categories of wetting agent types of formulations. And I can draw cartoon structures of these. I can give you the names of them. I can make actual chemical structures that you're going to take me all the way back to organic chemistry in college. And I can draw these things down on paper, show them. I can use them as marketing materials or whatnot. But at the end of the day, I don't really care what the chemical structure actually looks like. I want to see what the performance of that product is in the jug or in the soil when you actually are out there spraying. What is it actually doing? And you really need to understand sort of the longevity of the product and where is it actually moving water? Is it just keeping water just on the surface of the soil, or is it allowing just vertical movement of the water downward, or is it really doing both of those things? And so those are all really important things to be considering when you're looking at a wetting agent. And all those functionalities could come in handy when you're out there as a practitioner and you're managing turf. But unless you understand what your product is and what's in the jug, you're not going to know what is actually happening under the soil. So that's where when I came to Mitchell Products, what I really wanted to do is understand these differences. How do you compare one product to another? Are they all the same? Do they do the same thing? Are there differences? And that's really where my work has really come from, and sort of the impetus and the reasons why we do what we do.
Lehn, myth number 2, are patented formulas better? I know we see that patent, this is patent or patent pending thrown around, proprietary, does it matter? Does it truly matter?
Well, I guess it depends on whose perspective you are. If you're the maker of the patented product and you want that patent protection out there, then yeah, you want to get that into a patent. But at the end of the day, if you say, oh, my product is better because it's patented, well,
Right.
I don't really care whether it's patented or not patented. At the end of the day, again, we're getting back to the chemical structures or a patent or any of those sort of things. We really need to understand exactly what is it doing in the soil, opposed to whether it's patented or not. I don't really care. Let's see how it actually works out there.
I feel like of all of the different segments that we work with, different types of products, the wetting agent one is the one that marketing material and bold claims are bigger than all the other parts of our industry.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're here chatting about wetting agents and all these different myths. And you can write a lot of stuff down on paper, draw really pretty pictures, and have a big marketing budget or whatnot to really put this information out there. But again, at the end of the day, when you really want to understand these products and choose the one that's right for your course, your conditions, at the right price point, really have to understand more about what the products are actually doing, what's the functionality, what are the chemistries within it. We haven't even talked about whether a chemistry is going to hurt your plant or whether it's going to be phytotoxic or whatnot. And there's a lot of products that can hurt your turf, and looking at the label or anything else, you might not be able to understand or know those sort of things. But in practicality, when you're applying these products, it can be really important. So if you can apply it and leave it on the turf surface and not water it until that night or the next day, that's huge, and that really gives you flexibility in terms of applications and whatnot. And so those are fun things. And whether your product is patented or not, or your chemical structure, at the end of the day, the functionality, how you apply it, whether you need to water it in immediately, those are the things that really matter. At least that's what would matter to me if I was out there applying these to turf as well.
Sure. So marketing is a really important part of selling wetting agents. I've come up with 3 ways that somebody might have heard of a wetting agent or decide to use one, and these are in no particular order. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, and if you guys have probably done some research on why would somebody buy a certain wetting agent. So if there's others that I'm missing, or if you feel one is, more important than the others. But, a relationship with a distributor or supplier, probably the most important in my opinion. But again, these are in no particular order. The word of mouth from friends or other superintendents in the area that the current geography that the, customer is in, as well as research on their own and making decisions based on the research from, colleges, universities that are doing trials, and maybe research from their vendors as well. So do you have any thoughts on those 3, or am I missing any that might be important, just as important as those?
Yeah, I think all those 3 things are really important ways that people make the purchase decisions. And there's probably a lot of other subconscious or the ways that people actually make decisions about purchasing. And then it gets into price. Price is always another important piece of the puzzle. And then the last one that I would throw in there as well is just their previous experience with wetting agents. If they have a really bad experience with one wetting agent, well, they're probably not going to use that. And then the other thing is the mentors. And so the education that they get, a lot of superintendents or sports turf managers, they're going to learn from the people above them and who taught them how to do things. And so if they had good success with, or their mentor had good success with one product, they might be able to take that on and use that themselves. And so I think that's another really key piece of the puzzle. The interesting thing, though, is that oftentimes, at least in the golf course industry, if you are an assistant superintendent, you're not likely to stay at that one course or that course where you trained, and you might have to go somewhere else. And so the conditions of another course might be very different than the course where you trained. And so you need to be able to get the knowledge of what's actually happening on your course. What are the soil conditions? What are the environmental factors that are going in to whether a wetting agent will work or doesn't work, and so on and so forth. So I think that there's a lot of trial and error out there. I think that there's a lot of benefit to having good mentors, good sales representatives that can really troubleshoot and get to the root cause of what product that you need, why is that the one that you should be using, and then really follow up and make sure that it's doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. And Rob, did you have anything?
Yep. I was just gonna point out back to those three different ways that people choose products. I was at a large golf group's warm season turf grass meeting, and they were talking about this exact subject, and almost everyone in the room said that they basically bought it from their guy. I don't know, whatever wetting agent he sells, that's what I buy. So as a group, and they were all working for a large golf group that has courses all over the United States, and they were buying 5 different wetting agents. And it was because of the people they were buying it from. Lane, do you see people starting to choose products now over the last, maybe 10 years? We've seen all kinds of quantitative equipment coming out. Your Pogos and TDR me. That wasn't around 20 years ago. So it was a very visual, aesthetic recommendation choice for wetting agents. Do you see guys starting to choose based on this? Because I've seen a lot of superintendents that have Pogos and other equipment to measure moisture content in the soil, but a lot of them really don't know how to use it effectively, or even if they're making the right measurement and right comparison. So, what do you see with that?
I think that the more that you can arm yourself with data and understand what that data actually means, the better you're going to be able to use your knowledge and that data to make educated decisions about the products that you're choosing. Mm-hmm. And so I think that as we move forward,
and the water that you're going to apply to the course as well.
Absolutely.
100%. Yeah, exactly. And so I think all of those things are going to be really important in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I think technology and how you interface technology with making decisions on the golf course is going to be kind of a huge boom in terms of the industry and really help out. I don't know if you are hearing across your customers, but labor is a huge issue, and so if we can help our superintendents be able to do more with less labor, I think that's going to be really huge. And technology is certainly one way to be able to do that. I've seen drones out there flying over golf courses, looking at how that impacts water management, disease control. I see it, at least in the agricultural segments, you can actually spot treat either diseases or other things. And I think those types of treatments are going to come to the golf course industry as well as we get that technology and understand that a little bit more. The USGA just brought out their GS3, that little golf ball that is looks a lot like the stimp meter and is used in that same way, but gives you a lot more in terms of firmness and trueness of the roll and all those sort of things as well. And so that's a really cool, handy tool that I think is going to be used by more and more people. But all these things come back to water management and surface firmness and all those things that really matter to a golf course superintendent and members and players as well. And so I think these, as you begin to integrate that data into your decision making and understand how to use the tools that you have to your advantage, I think this is going to be a great thing and just continue to improve the conditions out there on courses.
Sure.
When it comes to the life cycle of a wetting agent, marketing probably plays the biggest role right at the beginning. So in your opinion, are new products better?
Oh, that's a great question. So I think that there's a lot that goes into making a new product, and already talked about the more than 40 different companies just here in the United States. Each one of them likely has not just a single wetting agent, but probably a whole portfolio of these products. And so to me, to have a list of 10 or 20 different wetting agents that you're selling all under one kind of umbrella approach, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why do you need to carry all that inventory? It's hard enough to choose between these 200 products that are out there. If my company was trying to sell 10 different products out there, how do you actually differentiate between those? How do you know when to use one versus another? I think those are really, really tough things. And so when we start to think about introducing new products, you really, as a company, you really have to understand where the marketplace is, where does that fit into your portfolio, and how does it fit in the whole grand scheme of there's already 200 products out there. Why do we need another wetting agent out there? Mm-hmm. And so to me, those wetting agents that have been around for 10 years, 20 years, that have been around for a really long time and have stood the test of time in terms of their effectiveness in multiple different conditions and some of the harshest environments that develop localized dry spot on the planet, those products that are still in those locations and are still going strong, I think that really tells a lot in terms of how well those products actually work. There's a lot of new products that come along and they're not even marketed anymore by companies. You can't even buy them half the time out there in the industry. And so I think that there's a lot of hype behind new products. Like you said, there's a lot of marketing dollars that get thrown out there. But at the end of the day, I don't care what happens day one when you start selling that new product. I want to see if it's still there 5 years from now.
Right.
That's really where you actually understand whether that product is working or not.
Yeah. And Rob, before you get into your next myth, time to plug one of our new products, which is new in the sense that it's new SKU, but it's using the same wetting agent technology that we've had for the last decade or so with AquaCare Granular. So we're taking AquaCare, putting it on a granular carrier. You can go out and spread it instead of spraying it like you have been able to with AquaCare. Same thing with the pellet. So we've got AquaCare liquid in a pellet and now on a granular form.
Yeah, that's super important because you can't take your spray equipment everywhere on a golf course or a sports turf. And so collars, approaches, all those sorts of places are really great places for using that AquaCare granular. And you can certainly also use it as spot treatments too. It's probably easier than throwing on a backpack sprayer and trying to spray liquid AquaCare out there. So great product. And I love that you have brought that on board too.
Well, and one of the things that I think launching this granular product does for us is that it gets a quality wetting agent, a premium wetting agent out into the lawn care and the sports turf, parks and rec, where they just don't have, again, back to labor, like you mentioned earlier, Lane, they don't have the labor and the capability and the spray equipment to spray, but they got a spreader. Everybody's got a spreader, and, everybody's working with these little riders now, the Z sprayers, that can do both spray and granular applications. But I was out at the city course, and he had the new latest and greatest Toro, kind of had this cool control, and it articulated. You could drive the thing anywhere. So it allows these guys to put a granular out where they couldn't put other product out before. And for those guys that just don't have spray capability. So we get better chemistry into their hands.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How do you feel about multifunctional products that claim to do everything?
Oh, that's a great question. So there's a lot of products out there like this, Rob. These products are say that they can fertilize your turf, they can acidify, they can wet your soils. They've got biostimulants in there to help reduce the stress that the turf grass is under in harsh conditions. I love it as a marketing scheme. But at the end of the day, as you start adding these ingredients to a wetting agent product, you're diluting out your wetting agent functionality. So now you're not at 100% active ingredient in terms of your wetting agent, and the strongest wetting agents out there are 100% active.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start thinking about this, it's just diluting the functionality of your wetting agent. So it's really problematic as a formulator too. As you start adding these new ingredients, the surfactants that are in these soil wetting agents precipitate out, or you get layering effects. And so there's not a whole lot of other sort of special goodies that you can actually add to a wetting agent mix to and keep it in a stable formulation. So at the end of the day, when you're buying a product that has all these goodies that are mixed in with your wetting agent, and it's claiming to have humic acid and biostimulants and acidifiers in there, the functionality of those other things are so little that you can actually put into a wetting agent formulation that you're really just diluting out your wetting agent and not getting any extra benefit out of it. So my recommendation, buy the best wetting agent that you can afford, and add in your acidifier, add in your biostimulant as a separate product out there, and you're going to get more bang for your buck and better performance out of coming up with your own cocktail of really good ingredients than trying to buy one product that says it does everything.
Well, talking to customers, because these products are popping up all over the place. These smaller companies, essentially marketing companies, go find a formulator and say, put everything in one jug. Right. And when I talk to customers, I'm like, okay, guys, so they have a 2.5 gallon jug, but it's going to do the same as this 100% active ingredient wetting agent, a high concentration humate, and a high concentration amino acid package, because that's what they just told us is in this jug. So I have 10 gallons of material that's supposed to be what's in a 2.5. It doesn't fit. I mean, you got to you can't put that much into a gallon. Yeah. But it'll only hold so much. So, but they're definitely popping up all over the place in our market. We've talked about the liquid aeration products that claim to do things, and you look at the formulation, and you're like, no
way, you can't do all of this. You can't. Let's do the data. That's the other thing, is that there's a lot of marketing claims out there, but if you can't back that up with data and actually show that your product is doing what it says it does, then it's no good at the end of the day.
And to reference the videos again, I think the videos, I mean, when I watch them all the time, because it reinforces the fact that it may say that, but this is what's actually happening. Here we're showing you in a visual controlled environment exactly what's happening in the soil.
Yes. Yeah, we've got videos. We've also had email exchanges and conversations with customers in Lehn about some of these liquid aeration or other products that claim to do certain things, and he's got the data to back up why he's saying what he's saying about they probably aren't working the way that it's saying that it's working on the jug, and here's a couple of reasons why, and here's some other products we can recommend that are doing the things that you want it to do.
Yeah, it gets back to having a really good sales rep and knowing how to use them as a resource and a technical asset, and if you have a good one, stick to them. If they can make recommendations and actually add to the quality of the things that you're doing on your course or your turf or your lawn, that's amazing.
Yeah. The best sales reps that we have are the ones that ask questions about what type of problems are you having with your soil, and then being able to recommend the proper wetting agent to correct those issues. Moving on to a new myth. What are your thoughts on organic acid removal products?
So this is a really interesting sort of question, and there's been a lot of marketing materials, a lot of research that has gone into these products, and I have not seen to this day convincing data that says that these products are actually removing the things that they say that they are removing. And so let's back up a little bit. So organic acid removal products are ones that claim that there's an organic matter that's coating soil particles that imparts the hydrophobicity or soil water repellency that leads to the problems of localized dry spot and the reasons why we use wetting agents in the first place. And so I 100% agree that there are deposits of organic molecules that form on the surface of soil particles, and that's pretty well known and really imparts that severe problems in terms of drying out, in terms of localized dry spots. But the problem is that these products claim to remove that coating, and that's the reason why that they are working so effectively. At the end of the day, I've never seen any data that suggests that there's any removal of organic matter from the surface of soil particles. There's so little organic matter that's actually accumulating on the surface that the quantitation of that is nearly impossible to be able to do. And the flip side is that if you are actually removing all the organic matter from your soil, then you should have cured your problem and you wouldn't need to apply these products again and again or as quickly as you have to apply other soil wetting agents. And at the end of the day, when you look at any of the organic acid removal products that are on the market, they have the same interval in terms of application and the doses of these application rates as all the other wetting agents out there. And so at the end of the day, these products aren't doing what they're saying that they are doing, but they're probably working in very similar ways that other surfactant or wetting agents are really working. So again, really good, really straight marketing. But at the end of the day, what I really want to know is what's going on in the soil.
One of the things that I saw in a research paper I was looking at talked about the fact that these organic acids are continually being produced in the soils. So you can't get rid of them. You can lower their concentration for a small period of time, maybe, but there's no getting rid of them. They're continually being produced by the soil microbiology.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't have any organic matter in your soil, then you've got no grass, you've got no roots, you've got no microbes, you've got just dirt. So it would actually be a really bad thing to just to eliminate all of these organic acids altogether.
Perfect. We wanted to talk a little bit about different wetting agents being necessary for different problems, preventative, curative, injection, extended products. We have all those different categories being marketed and sold in our industry. What do you feel about that?
Yeah, these are interesting terminologies, interesting ways to position products. We've even seen a whole portfolio of, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 different products that say, oh, use this product and you'll deposit your water in the top inch, and use this product to get it into the next area of your root zone, and use this product to get it even further down. You're ending up buying 10 different products to just wet your soil. And so that's really interesting to me to as a scientist, that's not really how it works. But it is excellent marketing. The other thing, let's take these kind of one at a time. If you need a product or if you have a product that only works as a preventative treatment, that's great. It works as a preventative, but it's probably not a very strong product if you can't overcome localized dry spot. And so why are you using a weak product to prevent localized dry spot? Use a really good one. You probably can even use it. It's probably stronger. You can use it at a lower rate than those preventative products that are not very effective, and you can get longer lasting, better control. And if you have any localized dry spot that pops up, you don't need to buy another product to kind of cure your wetting agent or cure your localized dry spot that you just developed. And so in my mind, I would buy one really good product that treats your localized dry spot and use that product. Now, certainly cost comes into play. If you need to use a lower cost product on fairways, roughs, those sort of things, there are lower cost wetting agents that are out there for native soils and those sort of things that work really, really well and don't cost the same amount as the wetting agents that you might need to apply to a green. Now, this gets into the soil physical properties, and I'm probably diving in too deeply here. But if you have a sand-based root zone system, that's going to be much more prone to localized dry spot than if you have native soils. And so one product that you need for your sand-based root zones might not be the same product that you would need or as high of a cost product that you would spray out there on native soils for roughs and fairways. When it comes to long-acting or seasonal applications of wetting agents at really high doses, all wetting agents are going to degrade in the soil. It's going to be temperature dependent because that's temperature is going to dictate how fast the microbes are going to metabolize those wetting agent products and kind of chew these long polymers down to smaller products. And that's why you have to reapply wetting agents throughout the season. And so at the beginning of the season, when it's cold out or pretty wet, you probably can use lower rates of wetting agent, get that first application out early before you see any localized dry spot as a prevention, but then increase your rates of your application as the season moves on, when the soil temperatures warm up and the degradation of the wetting agents really kicks in to a higher degree. So when you talk about a single application of a high dose wetting agent, you've got a huge dose of wetting agent at the beginning of the season with an initial application. And as the season goes on, it goes down and down and down and down and down and down. And so at the end of that season, you barely have any wetting agent effectiveness out there for a seasonal application. And so in my view, you might end up having to reapply that really high dose of a wetting agent and use more and spend more to do a seasonal application and then catch up when that product runs out and you have problems than just doing a monthly application and getting that product out there every single month. I even see guys splitting up that monthly application into every 2-week applications or even weekly applications. Those are my favorite ways to apply a wetting agent if I could, or the best way would be split that monthly dose into single day doses. And then, you have wetting agent out there every single day at the same dose. And you don't have kind of peaks and valleys in terms of wetting agent doses out there in the soil. And so lots of these terms are more marketing than actual scientific. But I guess companies need those products out there to keep selling products and making money at the end of the day. But in my view, they're not so much backed by very much science.
What are your thoughts on injection of wetting agents, Lane? That's becoming more popular again, getting back to the labor issue that we're experiencing in our industry.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to apply a wetting agent. It gets the wetting agent out uniformly throughout your irrigation system. You have to choose the right wetting agent for that application. And a lot of these high active ingredient, 100% active products are very high viscosity. So you need to buy a high viscosity pump to be able to meter it into your system in the appropriate ways. But it's a great way to apply a wetting agent, and it can be really useful, especially if you're doing broad applications of wetting agents and you need to save money and time in terms of labor. So I do think that they're good, but you don't necessarily have to buy that 10th product from your distributor. Buy the one that works really, really well, and buy the equipment that you need to inject that really good wetting agent into your irrigation system, and make sure that you get the high value product that you really want.
I have seen a couple of superintendents put the newer high viscosity pump systems into their pump house. I think a lot of guys use their old fertigation systems. Maybe they put a simple system in at construction. They were fertigating with a 10-10-10, just feeding out nitrogen and phosphorus, potassium throughout the growing. But that's what's left there. So they buy the low concentration, low viscosity material and pump a lot of water, essentially. So I have seen a couple of those high viscosity systems, very good systems, and we were using 100% concentration product with good results.
Yeah, that's the best way to go.
So you talked about adjusting rates throughout the season. Obviously, because the microbes are increasing activity when the soil temps are warmer, that means you're going to need to increase your rates or decrease your rates depending on where you are regionally across the country. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, so it depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what you want to do. So there are superintendents who dial rates and ratios of different wetting agents into their program every single application. Other guys want to say, I just want to stick with one rate, and I want to know that I have enough in there, and I don't want to change things because I don't want to mix up sort of my program. And so there's lots of different ways that you can slice a pie. At the end of the day, you have to figure out what you want to accomplish. What are your goals for the course? What's your budget? What are the course conditions? What's the weather outlook for the next 2 weeks after a wetting agent application? And if you really want to dial in and fine tune your wetting agent program, there's a lot of opportunities to be able to do that very effectively if you're using the right products, high quality products that are doing the job that they're supposed to be doing. And so if you do want to do this program approach, I think it makes a whole lot of sense. It's very similar to what golf course superintendents and turf grass managers are already doing with integrative pest management programs. You're not spraying your fungicide all throughout the season. You're only spraying it when there's high disease activity. And you can do the same thing with a soil wetting agent too. And so spray it when you need it, get it out there early with a preventative application. You might not need to use a full season dose. I love the application labels for a lot of our competitors say, and a lot of your competitors say 6 ounces of per 1,000 square feet all throughout the season, all throughout, no matter what your turf looks like, on the greens, on your tees, in the roughs, on the fairways, everywhere, just 6 ounces. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because there's each of those locations is going to have very different disease pressures. And so why are you spraying a huge dose everywhere? Only spray it where you need it. And only use the rates that you need to really overcome the problems that you may experience or that you're experiencing with your course. So I think there's a lot of leeway, and there's cost savings, environmental implications by spraying less product out there. But there's a lot of trial and error that goes into this. And your sales reps can certainly help you in terms of making these decisions if you're struggling to do this on your own, but they need to follow up with you and make sure that what they're saying and what the products are doing are actually achieving what you expect to see on your course, your turf, your lawn, so on and so forth.
And I've got one more question. It wasn't planned, but we've been having some questions from sales reps and customers about tank mixing, and we'll see tank mixes with just a whole slew of different things in there. What are your thoughts on putting a wetting agent in with all these other HIF and nutritional products? And are we losing performance with the wetting agent specifically by mixing it with all of those other products?
So great question. Tank mixing is super important and super necessary in the industry with labor issues and everything else. And so when you can tank mix a wetting agent in with the other ingredients and the other products that you need, I think it's a great opportunity to be able to do that. But you have to make sure that it's not having interactions with any of the other products that you have in there. I always recommend a jar mix test. If you're adding in a new kind of mix, spray it on an area of turf that's not too important to you and make sure that there's no issues with it before you go out and broadcast spray an application of that new mix. And so I think that I shouldn't say most, but many wetting agents, especially the better wetting agents out there, can certainly be tank mixed with fungicides, PGRs, nutritionals, all those sorts of things. You also have to think about how you're going to apply those other products. Is it a foliar uptake? Is it root uptake? Can you let your wetting agent sit on your leaf, or do you have to water it right in so it doesn't cause burn? So all those things are very, very important. Many of these soil wetting agents will also work as adjuvants, even though they're not labeled as adjuvants. Adjuvants are molecules or chemistries or formulations that help these products get into the leaf tissue, spread out on the leaf, and so on and so forth. And so many wetting agents can do that. They can accelerate the uptake of a PGR, accelerate the uptake of a fungicide, even if your wetting agent isn't one that causes phytotoxicity. If it's added to another product that if it gets taken up too much by a leaf blade, it can cause phytotoxicity. Well, it might accelerate that uptake. And so that's why we always recommend that jar mix test if you're adding in a wetting agent to a new formulation or a new spray tank mix.
That's some great insight. I hadn't thought about the accelerating phyto from another product in the mix aspect. Yeah. Rob, do you have any other questions or final thoughts for Lehn today?
I had one last one. Products like Hydretain and how they're different from a true wetting agent that we've talked about in the presentation today.
Yeah, so great question. We get this question a lot. Hydretain is a very different product than a soil wetting agent. Hydretain is a collection of a number of different ingredients that are proposed to help hold on to water once that product gets into the soil. And so it has a lot of different properties that may even be what's called hygroscopic, which can actually pull atmospheric moisture from the air into the soil. Wetting agents don't really do that. The issue is that Hydretain actually has to get into your soil in the first place. And so if it can't get into your soil, then that becomes problematic. And you want that Hydretain not just to be in pockets of your soil, you want it evenly distributed. And that's where soil wetting agents come in. Soil wetting agents help to break surface tension, especially in hydrophobic conditions, and allow moisture to spread out uniformly into the soil. And this goes for other products too, your fungicides and nutritionals. If they aren't going uniformly into your soil, they're not getting to the right place in a uniform distribution. That's why the tank mixing with wetting agents is oftentimes a really good and important way to get these other chemicals to go where they're supposed to go. Same thing with Hydretain. Hydretain doesn't have any soil wetting capacity. So if you put Hydretain on hydrophobic soil, it sits right on top of that soil and doesn't infiltrate into the soil at all. Sits there just like water would. And so to allow Hydretain to get into the soil in a uniform distribution, that's where wetting agents come in. And so I think of Hydretain and soil wetting agent products as completely separate categories of products. And so you shouldn't just be using one or the other. If you want to use Hydretain, you certainly need to get a wetting agent in that application as well.
Oh, that's great information, because again, this is throughout the United States, we have areas that have always been traditionally dry. Obviously, Arizona, the Southwest United States, parts of California, through the part of the Rockies where I'm at, and so everybody's looking for water management. They're looking for different tools and how to use them together to get the water management that they need. We have a lot of parts of the country where the courses and the sports fields, Parks and Rec, etc., they pay for the water. Water is a quantitative cost in their budget. So if we can do things with these products and build a program that they can lower their water budget, it's a number. Yeah. So, it's a quantifiable number. We use 25% less water, and our water bill was $1 million. I've been at a golf course, and that's exactly what he said. So there's a lot of opportunity for these products in our market now.
Yeah, when you have a budget like that for your water, these products will pay for themselves very, very quickly.
Almost instantly, they found. Always appreciate the time we get to talk to Lehn and just kind of brainstorm. I think between Lehn and I, that's most of our conversations, kind of throwing ideas. I think I've sent you 3 or 4 this week. What do you think about doing this?
Yeah, I love it. Those are my favorite questions. I love to troubleshoot and think about these things all the time. So it's great to talk about with other people that love this topic as well.
And it's one of those topics that it's a big deal. Again, we're in a society now that we do not have enough water to do everything that we want to do. So we're looking for ways to save it, save labor, save money, and be able to still have the level of quality that we want. So it's going to be an ongoing topic. It's not going to go away. We're going to talk about water management, wetting agents, and how we can better take care of the properties, golf courses, sports turf that we're managing, in hopes to continue to have the quality product that we want.
Absolutely. It sounds like you're recruiting me to another podcast, which I'd love to do in the future. That sounds great.
Let's do it.
So appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.